Dr. Stone has been one of the most consistently enjoyable reads for me in the past year. It's an incredibly unique process in that it has to do with science. Boichi has some of the best art, it's also very funny, has some great actions, and overall it's just a very fun time. But even though it's had some very great moments, especially at the height of Stone Wars, I never really saw Dr. Stone as this peak fiction that is incredibly hype and one of my favorite stories of all time. Because it still really hasn't had those incredibly high stake moments that just has you at the edge of your seat. But goddamn, in these recent chapters, things have taken a turn. The last 5 chapters of Dr. Stone have been the best chapters in the story. And honestly, I just wanted to make a video talking about it because I'm enjoying it so much and there's so much to speculate about. But very quickly, if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, make sure you do subscribe. Got a lot more videos coming soon. The next one will probably be about Vinland Saga. So yeah, make sure you're subscribed and drop a like if you're having a good time. But yeah, first let's set the stage for what is actually happening. Pretty much the main characters split into 2 groups after what happened in North America. You had one group stay behind to try to establish Corn City, meanwhile Senku and another group went off to South America to try to figure out how the world turned to stone in the first place. But meanwhile, the issues from America still linger around because Stanley is going after Dr. Xeno. So this whole time it's like this cat and mouse chase where Senku and the science team are just trying to figure out any way to get away from Stanley, and eventually they do finally reach their destination and find this massive pile of medusas. And this is what really sets in motion this final grand finale that we see in the last few chapters. They figure out that diamonds are what powers these medusas, so everything kinda aligns in their next plan. They end up going to the location where they were gonna set up the super alloy city anyways, so they could also find diamonds for the medusa, and that ends up being the final place for their battle with Stanley, because they do need their ship back for the next mission to trudge across the Atlantic. And from here on out, the plans just continuously change. Initially, they wanted to put diamonds in the medusas and use them as weapons against Stanley, but once they figure out that it's very difficult to produce these diamonds, they decide to turn everybody into stone. It's a pseudo-suicide mission where they turn everybody into stone, but they have one person that is outside of the range, Suika, who could come back and free everybody. But of course they run into issues, Suika gets captured, and this is where things really start to take a turn, because we get into this rescue mission involving Kohaku, Tsukasa, and Hyoga. And the action we get from this is not only incredible, but it also sets the tone for what exactly is about to happen. First off, just seeing Kohaku, Hyoga, and Tsukasa fight together is incredibly nostalgic. These 3 were pretty much the biggest players in the first Stone Wars that happened, which I do feel like before this, that was still the pinnacle of the Dr. Stone story. So now seeing the 3 of them that were once enemies fight back to back to back is really nostalgic and also hype. And I really liked how each of them played their role. Tsukasa, of course, being just ridiculously strong, Hyoga analyzing the situation and knowing exactly what to do. But of course, in the end, Kohaku was actually the one to save the day and destroy the transmitter. But what really sets the tone for this battle is the fact that all 3 of them get bodied and shot. And honestly, I really do think Hyoga is dead like Tsukasa said. There's gotta be some stakes involved in this battle and some people are gonna die. The healing powers of Medusa, of course, is always in the back of our minds whenever somebody gets supposedly killed. And I definitely do believe a lot of these people are gonna end up fine, but there's gotta be some stakes involved. Hyoga definitely feels like the perfect person to sacrifice here, but I do feel like maybe Tsukasa passing on as well would be pretty hard hitting, because in this battle he finally gets some great development once again. Ever since he was revived, I felt like he was more of just like a soldier for the science team. But as he's dying here, he's thinking back to Senku and how they fought on their ideals, and how now once again he has to believe in science for the sake of his own life. And yeah, overall this battle was completely shocking, especially seeing Kohaku, a main character, getting shot like that. You knew that this was a straight up war and there were gonna be consequences. And this continues next chapter where Stanley and his men are absolutely ruthless and just go after the science team. You see Taiju just get demolished by a bunch of bombs, and Jen's reaction to Taiju potentially dying, that was heartbreaking. And what really hit me is thinking about how these people never knew each other in the first place when they all revived. But they've been through so much now that even somebody like Jen and Taiju, who aren't really that close, they really feel a connection to each other. And when you're thinking about the fact that most of them are pretty young, they're pretty much still kids, and they're literally fighting elite American soldiers, it's absolutely crazy. Ryusui is the next one to go, but he dies with a smile on his face like he has the will of D. But essentially, all of these people are willing to give up their life and they're not afraid of death because of their belief in Senku and their belief in science. And of course, we even see that later with the Corn City team, but first we do get our glimmer of hope, because this whole time they've been trying to figure figure out this diamond situation, and Kaseki just couldn't, and he's in a desperate situation. But it turns out he was actually able to contribute because he figured out that the diamond split in half, and Francois had this big brain move where she kind of gave the hint to Joel. So as a result of this, Joel was able to complete the diamond and recreate Medusa and bring its powers back. And we get this beautiful moment between Joel and Kaseki, with Joel being this 21st century genius with all this knowledge, but you have him appreciating Kaiseki's dedication to craftsmanship. And Kaseki, who this whole time thought he didn't contribute, realizes that he did contribute. So now the science team have their chance back, and this is where Kohaku's efforts pay off. Senku delivers the message to the other side that, hey, it's do or die now, just go after, get the transmitter, and turn us all into stone. And of course, the science team at Corn City do not hesitate at all and just give their lives on the line to try to accomplish the mission. And once again, the camaraderie here really hits me, because if you're looking at this group of people, some of them just joined recently, a lot of them have different ideals, but all of them are willing to put their lives on the line because they believe in Senku and they believe in science. You even have Joel in the background, who really recently just became part of the team, kind of wondering how they're willing to just so easily give up their life. And ironically, it's actually him in the end who sacrifices his own arm to get his hands on Medusa. And to see Joel, who was this arrogant kid, sacrifice his own arm as a craftsman just because of his strong connection with Kaseki, that was really touching. But that's not even the biggest moment, because the twist is that Y-Man on the moon is the one to send the transmission. And once again, he sets the entire world to stone. And this is gonna cause a big change in the story, because that means the people from Japan, they're gonna get turned into stone as well. And there's no way they had any idea that this was coming, so I expect that they won't be saved. So there's a lot to speculate about what's gonna happen next, but first we have to talk about the lone savior that will save everybody. Back on South America, warfare is still happening. Their only chance of survival now is getting their hands on some revival fluid, but of course they're literally up against the US Army, and Stanley and his men just absolutely tear through the science team. And I'll be honest, when I saw Suika's helmet fly off with some blood spatter, I was like, god damn, yo, Boichi, you are really not pulling back any punches. But luckily, Suika is still safe. She just let go of the helmet and she actually got her hands on the revival fluid. And essentially, it's all gonna rely on Suika saving everybody else. They put the bottle of revival fluid on the receiver, which will eventually crack because of thunder or some wild animal. And eventually that bottle will drop upon whoever's underneath it, who is Suika. And at the end of chapter 192, you see Suika just with tears in her eyes looking up. And I gotta say, that panel made me very emotional, because I genuinely thought she got shot earlier. But yeah, that's pretty much the end of that whole crazy warfare sequence. A lot of people got shot. I think most of them will be fine, but if Boichi really wants to deliver and capitalize on this moment, you have some sacrifices and consequences. I think Hyoga is probably dead, but I feel like there should be more as well. But honestly, I really don't know what happens next. Suika will be saved, but at this point, she's completely blind without her helmet, and she's also 11 years old, and she's not like Senku with a wealth of knowledge. So honestly, when we return next chapter, I don't think we're gonna get this story about how Suika is gonna go about doing this. I think we just jump right into a time skip where Senku gets revived, because most likely he'll be the first one she saves. And you can have a moment where Suika is 15 or something like that, and she's just been working by herself this whole time to try to save everybody. That would be pretty crazy, but yeah, I'm really excited to see what happens next. Honestly, I don't know what they're gonna do. Everybody is turned to stone at this point, unless they had some really big brain move to save people beforehand, but I don't really see it. So is the next move going back around and saving everybody again? That way we get another time skip, and then everybody's really old at that point. But at the same time, they really gotta move forward and figure out the situation with Y-Man. But yeah, either way, Dr. Stone, my god, I did not expect it to get this serious and this dark, and I'm just super stoked for what happens next. But I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts as well. What did you think of the recent chapters? What do you think is gonna happen next? Let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you guys for watching. If you had a good time, drop a like for the YouTube algorithm. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm gonna have a Vinland Saga review coming soon, so make sure you're subscribed. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. I'm DZach, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.